Hello, y'all. Oh, giving y'all the preview already. It's too early for that. How y'all doing on this Sunday evening? This is Nicole Coco Patrice, Chillin' Junas Mas Finas. This is going to be a different take, or not different take, but a different approach. Today, I'm going to lay out some facts for y'all today in a different format than I normally do. I saw Stacy Davis Gates presenting her appeal to, I guess, a mixed audience. And that pretty much went viral in a few spaces that I check out. And it was pretty alarming. I'm already a parent of a child in Chicago public school system. I've had two children in the system. I myself grew up in that system. And so I just want to explore why I think we need to be a little bit more cautious of what's going on. And I think this train has already left the station. It's pretty far away from us. And I don't see enough people concerned. And if anything, the last few months has just completely solidified the fact that we are not in control of what's happening with our children. And some people like it like that, I guess. And that's fine if that's what you want. You know, you want to have your children indoctrinated. That's your right, I guess. I for one want my children to reflect my values. Not saying I'm going to indoctrinate them myself, but I do want my children to be like, sensible people that I can say I've put my values in, or at least given an opportunity for them to find their own voice and their own integrity, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So anyway, again, this is Nicole Coco Patrice, Chillin' Dreamas Mas Finas. If you are here, I appreciate you. Please make sure you have liked, subscribed, you're commenting, sharing the videos. All of that helps so much. And I definitely appreciate you and everybody who's been sharing and, helping me grow the channel, because I'm just trying to get the information out here, because it's rough out here, especially for my people. So I'm just here to try to get the information and translate it for my people in a way that hopefully keeps us in the game. Because it's a game and there are players, and we seemingly are sitting on the sidelines. We think we're on the sidelines, but I mean, we're being used. We're funding the teams. Like, I don't even know how else to explain this. It's like, you're the manager, you're the team, you're not the team owner, but you're buying tickets. I'm trying to put this in basketball. You're buying tickets to the game. You're sitting at the game. You don't like nothing about how the game is going. And everybody keeps telling you, no, you're supposed to be here. But like, they never come to you and ask you, hey, you want more of these jerseys we got? Like, how you feel about the coach? You'd be like, oh, the coach is black. Okay. Just take the coach you get. You're not supposed to have no say in the draft picks. You're just supposed to just take whatever they give you. And it's pretty whack. So I'm hoping that we realize our power, and that's the point of this. So let's just get into it, because it's a lot. And I'm not trying to be on here all day. My daughter had a little crisis earlier. Children always with a mini crisis. So we had to deal with that, but we on track. All right. So let me make sure I don't mess this up. Ooh, okay. Challenge 1. All right. The Chicago Teachers Union, they have made it apparent that they want you to homeschool your children. Okay. Stacy Davis Gates has been elected, I believe, twice or 3 times now. And she is not really the voice of conservatives, moderates, Chicagoans, citizens, taxpayers. But she's clearly or not even the children. She's clearly the voice of the teachers. And so I'm just concerned that, I was on the teacher's side for a little while, because I was like, well, maybe they just don't know she crazy. Maybe they just don't know she's a communist. Maybe they just don't know. They're victims too. The teachers are victims too. But they re-elected this woman. Okay. And so that to me makes it clear that they know exactly what they're doing, because I know y'all got Google. I got it. I look up communism and I say, well, wait a minute. It looks very similar to the crap that this woman here is telling us we need to do with our tax dollars while they dig us in a bigger hole than we're already in. And it's one thing if you're paying for something and it's giving you a benefit. But it's a whole other thing when you're paying for something, it's breaking you, it's killing you, and then you see no benefit and no end of the tunnel, no light at the end of the tunnel. It's giving darkness and despair at the other end. Okay, I don't know what communist dreams y'all have lived in, that this is going to be a beautiful utopia for us all. But I don't see it. Okay, so let me just let's just jump in here, because this woman, she's a mess. Oh no, not my little video ain't showing in the link. Hold on. All right, there it is. I don't know why it's not showing when I go full screen. Just hating. There we go. Oh, you know what? I know what happened. Let's get out of here. Let's escape. There we go. I hope this don't open up a new link. It's gonna do it. All right, hold on one second. I gotta switch the tab. All right, so Miss Stacy Davis Gates. See where did you go here?
Thanks again, everybody. Hope you're enjoying your lunch. Once again, I'm Dan Gibbons from the City Club, and it's an honor to have all of you here on this toasty Chicago summer day.
All right, not that part. It's got to be right here.
Recovery, Cheryl. Asha Ransberry is here, organizer extraordinaire. Action. So bear with me because this is pretty lengthy. And so I want people to understand that as a teacher, we try to create objectives. And these are objectives that we send to you at the beginning of the class, so you are prepared to leave with something as an outcome. Today, it is important for us to engage in a civics lesson of Chicago.
Girl, bye.
A civics lesson of the beauty and complexity of this country and how history, if told the right way, propels us forward. And so as a high school history teacher, I'm going to take a lot of room with the history of our country to create a moment that I think all of us can see ourselves in, because it's important that we do that. And I want to call us to action in the solidarity that this union, the one I get to serve, again, did you all know I got reelected?
Like how, Ray? That is the most concerning thing.
And not only did I get reelected, almost by 10 percentage points more.
Like how? What's going on, teachers?
That's something. Especially with teachers. Do you know any teachers?
The most concerning part of
you
it
know
all.
Any teachers? So our objectives are to engage, to understand our role and responsibility as leaders in this moment, and to share that understanding in a way that helps us resist, reimagine, and reconstruct. You got it?
Resist.
Okay. So thank you for having me.
Reimagine.
I jest, but this is
resist, reimagine, and reconstruct. Okay. Y'all voted for this. You want to resist. No definition of what that means other than Trump, right? And making America great again. You want to reimagine, obviously without key people at the table, and you want to reconstruct, which to me sounds like you want to take everything down to its bare parts and put your dreams forth with my money is what I've gathered so far. But let's let Miss Stacy Davis continue to tell us. So let me see if I can pull this other link. So she gets more into right-wing policies.
Here, it can truly be called the City Club of Chicago. I see people who live on the west side, the north side, the south side, the southeast side, the southwest side. I see young people here. I see our sage elders here, and all of us in between. That's a pretty big deal for a room for anything. So this room is Chicago. And unfortunately, it is likely that some of you have come here because you want to see the caricature, the IPI, and for those of you who don't know them by shorthand, the right-wing MAGA section of the political spectrum, the Illinois Policy Institute. See, they've spent millions of dollars crafting an image of me, my union, our movement on social media, in the pages of the Tribune, editorial or otherwise, that probably have some people thinking that they're gonna get a parody of a Black woman rolling her neck, smacking her lips, or cutting her eyes in an epic clapback for what the news was last week. I'm sorry, I'm not here for that today. Really, I'm not.
And so the epic clapback of the news from last week, right? Is that, are we talking about the audits that are overdue? Are we talking about the layoffs that you've had to make? Are we talking about the fact that you don't want to do any math, but you want our money? Is that what we're talking about? Is that the epic news from last week? Like the framing of it as some racial divide where they're, Illinois Policy Institute, Wire Points, whoever, that, these right-wing people are MAGA, which, hello, that's instantly a dog whistle to most of these people because they're in their feelings, to white supremacy, racist, Trump. That's all you're supposed to hear there. And so then by her positioning herself in contrast as, well, I'm not going to be that neck rolling Black woman, it's given the whole Jasmine Crockett, all of that all over again. And so she's literally sitting here laying out all the indoctrination right from the jump. But let's go on. And no, actually, hold on one second. I wanted to pull this out. I forgot to add this here. There was a situation where the announcer during one of the WNBA games had to basically apologize for saying, make America great again. Like, I'm just like, this is where we've gotten. And if this is not indoctrination, if this is not fascism, I don't know what to say. Like, we already see how like Caitlin Clark's getting pretty much, yeah, here we go. Let me see if I can find the video. Is this that? We'll try this. We'll try this one.
Introducing Propel Energy Boost with caffeine.
Spare you. Are we done here? Are we done here? Oh, more ads. No. This is illegal. There's no reason I should get 2 ads in a row. What have I done to you?
We really haven't talked about this much intentionally. It's not something I want to talk about all the time, but the WNBA, there's some really weird shit going on.
Weird.
Yesterday, or when was this play-by-play, Brandon, with Rebecca Lobo?
That would have been 2 days ago.
Okay. So they're just calling a WNBA game. I mean, whatever. And she says something, Rebecca Lobo says something, and then all of a sudden you hear this, it's a pretty long silence, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And then you find out why there's a long silence, and it's like, oh, really?
Right.
Check this out.
Well, they disagree with you. They do. And I disagree with them. And that's fine. That's what makes America great, right, Pam Ward?
Dead air.
What's wrong? What's wrong with that?
I should rephrase that. Yes.
She said,
Yeah,
make them-
I did think opinion are perfectly. Yes, that's a better way to say it. Sorry about that.
Sorry about saying make
snubbed
America
her.
great.
She snubbed her because she said something close to great. Make America great again.
Are you fucking kidding me?
No.
That's,
No.
Like, what world
That's
do
what
you
it
live
is.
in?
oh, jeez.
No, can you believe that?
It's not even.
I
It's
should
not even.
rephrase
The,
that.
it's not even the catchphrase, though. It's not
They're
even,
not. They're not talking about the country. They're talking about disagreeing about basketball.
Well, even if you are talking about the country, being able to disagree does make this country great.
I don't think that's how they feel.
Exactly.
So Pam Ward apparently was going to ice her.
Pam Ward.
Yeah, it was Pam Ward.
Pam Ward's back. I didn't know she was around.
Pam Ward's the color. Well, it was Rebecca Lobo
Miss
said make America
Trickeration?
great, and then Pam Ward snubbed her and didn't say anything.
Isn't she the trickeration lady?
Is that Pam Ward?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's her.
Yeah.
So,
She goes from doing college football to.
I mean, why would you draw attention to that? Would it just go on?
Just go, yeah,
Right.
It sure is. LOL.
You can say something makes America great. It's not a crime.
Yeah.
It's not a crime, y'all.
I mean, it's not a crime to even say America's great. I'm sure some people think it is, but
Soft.
so the other thing about the WNBA that is just bizarre to me is this Caitlin Clark. They can't stand how important Caitlin Clark is. So, I mean, we've seen this. She's snubbed from the Olympic team. She's getting knocked around the court pretty good too. And a lot of people were not, well, they were angry at Caitlin's fans. And then when Angel Reese got booed when Caitlin fouled her and they upgraded it to a flagrant foul.
Yes.
And Angel Reese got booed, and then they implied that, oh my God, those racist fans! If you boo Angel Reese, you must be a racist. And so Angel Reese kind of implied that, yeah, it was really bad and it hurt my feelings, but my team is so supportive, blah, blah, blah. So the WNBA does an investigation, and they determined that no, it wasn't being racist; they were just booing you. So then this video goes viral of Brittany Griner, who knocked Caitlin on the court. It was just a basketball play. It wasn't a big deal. And then she fouled out shortly after that. And so she yells trash at the referee. And then the camera goes to Brittany, who's just sitting down, and she appeared to say, fucking white girl.
Yeah.
But you
I
can't
remember that.
hear her, but it really looks like she said it. So, of course, this goes all over. I mean, this is just viral as hell. This is probably, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, a while ago.
Yeah, and I just kind of kept ignoring it. But then the WNBA, it was crickets. And Brittany Griner said nothing. But what's even more weird is that no one asked her about it. The entire internet is saying, hey, that seems really racist. And no one asks her. And Outkick revealed that they were denying them press credentials the entire time. They wouldn't let them in because they thought, oh, she's going to ask, their Outkick is going to ask Brittany Griner about that. So we're going to deny them press privileges. So they finally let Outkick into one of Brittany Griner's games. This is so funny. She's like, Outkick would care about the WNBA. Doesn't that sound silly?
They really do, though.
But they do, because it gets clicks.
Yep.
So the Outkick guy, of course, what does he do? Because if the Brittany Griner asks her, did you say that? Did you say fucking white girl? And she's like, I don't use language like that at all.
I can't remember what I said.
Yeah. And she did have defenders like Jamel Hill. Surprise.
So yeah, I just wanted y'all to see that. Like, we're literally, this is not a game. Like, how are you afraid to say make America great? Like, how are you afraid to say, like, that's insane. That's literally the problem right now. I don't know why this is not letting me. It's just not cooperating.
And then you also have to do
So that just shows you like where the indoctrination is going, how far it's gone. You can't say things like make America great because it might sound like MAGA. And then MAGA in and of itself is a problem because, Trump, right? But you're supposed to lean on American principles, right? American values, so that you can go out here and say what you want to say and do what you want to do, but then everybody else has to be suppressed. It's giving indoctrination, okay? And then they want to carry this over to our students. But let's go on listening to Miss Stacy Davis and her teaching us about our values.
Do something extraordinary. You have to imagine with those young people the hopefulness of what a public education can provide. So you have to seek that hope. And as a history teacher, you don't have to go far. This country, our country, and the history that is told and all of its beautiful complexity gives you so much hope.
Whoa.
Hope that I'm choosing.
Our country and the history that it provides and its beautiful complexity, right?
In this complex country, our country, and the history that is told and all of its beautiful complexity gives you so much hope.
Wow.
And the hope that I'm choosing in this moment is the Reconstruction era.
What?
And if you're a good history teacher,
the Reconstruction era brought to you by Republicans, right? But then they're all racist, MAGA, according to her, as of now. It was a different time, I guess. That's the story. That's the story, and they're sticking to it. But if we didn't have dissenting opinions, if we didn't have people who were able to have free thought and open communication and conversations at some point, would any of that have happened? Would it have happened without the Republican Party? Would any of our progress have happened if we didn't have options to move within and without of parties? Right? I don't think we'll get that acknowledgement here from Ms. Davis Gates.
You know, we've had two of those. We've had one right after the Civil War, and then we have had another one during the Civil Rights Movement, a time in which our country had to go through a massive reconstruction. And what I submit to you today is that the city of Chicago is in such a reconstruction currently. Find the parallels. Our city is in the middle of leading the country's third reconstruction. The first reconstruction was right after.
Like, why do you get to reconstruct America from Chicago? And to say that's not what she's saying here, you're not listening hard enough. Like, why does she get to spearhead a reconstruction era with her values in a school system that her children don't attend? Is my concern.
After the Civil War. And the second one was to break the back of Jim Crow. So what does it mean to say that Chicago is leading the country's third reconstruction? It means that
she literally said it. Sorry, there it is. Chicago's leading the country's third reconstruction. If you don't hear what I'm hearing right here, I don't know what to tell you, because the woman is telling you with her own mouth, we are going to reshape American values, and we're going to do it through the lens and the eye of the CTU, myself, and Brandon Johnson, Mr. I'm on the CTU payroll while also being your mayor with your tax dollars. But trust me, it's totally not a conflict of interest.
We are carrying forward the unfinished work of Black Americans to force the United States of America to live up to its unfulfilled promise.
To force the U.S. to live up to its unfulfilled promise. So come hell or high water, we are going to get what we feel we deserve from America. Now, you can say that she's going to fight for Black children, you know, as much as she's going to fight for immigrants, as they've shown that they're doing, right? But when you're going to tax everyday working people into bankruptcy, the state and the city into bankruptcy, you can't be looking out for us, because we're going to get hit the hardest with those taxes. When we're talking about the property taxes, we already suffer with lack of home ownership and generational wealth. And so I don't see how we're going to have a positive outcome, especially given that our children are not able to read and write on grade level. But we can go ahead and let Ms. Davis Gates finish. I think I need to move on to another clip, but let me.
You know what the promise is: liberty,
democracy,
abundance, home ownership,
There we go. Home ownership.
2.5 kids, opportunity, a happy, healthy spouse. Ha ha. No one's married.
And I've noted this time and another time in here where she seemingly takes snubs at male counterparts. So that's also another part of my issue with the Chicago school system, is that there is a concerted effort to villainize men, villainize Black men, villainize men who will stand up to these crazy women. Like, let's just be honest. Some of these women want to be able to do whatever they want to do with their feelings and put policy and money behind their feelings. And then when a man stands up and is trying to discipline, is trying to bring order, a la Pedro Martinez, okay, a la Superintendent Snelling with his protest of removing the police from the schools, a la, and it's just on and on and on. Like, you don't see a lot of men in schools. You don't see a lot of male influence in schools. And so it makes you question, is this an environment that is conducive to masculinity? I know plenty of men who worked in public schools who left, including my own father, who left because they did not align with this very feminist ideal of soft on children, lack of discipline, pass them just to pass them. You know, there's just this idea that, you know, we don't have to have the children live up to any standards. And it got worse after the pandemic. So, or during the pandemic. So we're leading down a road that is not going to produce smart children, that is not going to produce children who can stand up for themselves and fight back this type of encroaching socialism. They can't even recognize the pattern because they've been indoctrinated so badly. So let me see. There was another piece right after this. I think I got it. Sorry, y'all. I got like 40 screens open here. It's too much. All right, no, I got it. All right, so yeah, she wants to make sure we have all of the resources for her doings, okay? Everything she want to do, we got to pay for. Hold on.
Equal economic and political systems. One that fed off of poverty, a system that, like maybe today, that enables billionaires like Jeff Bezos to skip out on paying his fair share while sending pop princess Katy Perry to the moon for 10 minutes.
The disdain for the capitalism, the disdain for, the so-called job producers, right? Because at the end of the day, you don't have Uber, you don't have Amazon, you don't have Walmart, you don't have all of these, broad companies that employ hundreds of thousands of people. You don't have these companies if you don't have billionaires, if you don't have millionaires. And yeah, they may not pay what you feel like is their fair share. But if you completely villainize them all, or run them off to another country, or run them off to another state or county or city, and you cannot collect that revenue from them, you have nothing. Do you want a piece of something, or do you want zero? Not saying you can't regulate, not saying you can't renegotiate, not saying you can't come up with new, means of taxing, but it has to be fair and it has to be democratic. And if you don't take that route, who are you going to get the taxes from? Obviously, working class people, because that's where she's going to keep going in here. It's now she's gonna move on from Jeff Bezos. She's gonna move on from all of the millionaires that she's criticizing, and she's going to let us know that it's up to us.
How many special education teachers come with a trip to the moon? Sometimes,
what you want to be in a Challenger? Because that's what they did right back in the day. They sent the challenger, they sent the 5th grade teacher or whatever she was up there, and they all died up there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I get what she's saying, but also no. Like that, all these false equivalencies, part of the indoctrination. Like, you keep equating things where they fit you, right? Because like you didn't connect Republicans to Reconstruction, even though that's what you built this whole speech around, which you're building your whole reconstruction of America through the eyes of Chicago. If Trump can make America great again, and you can but then you can reconstruct America through Chicago through the lens of you and CTU and Brandon Johnson. Like, that to me is like, what are you actually doing? What are you actually saying? That sounds like communism.
Sometimes you have to go backwards to go forward.
Backwards to go forward.
But this idea of having a freedom dream as a newly enfranchised human being is, quite frankly, a big deal. And so our ancestors, and I say our because they're American. And so this story belongs to you just like it belongs to my people. So
now they're American. Now they're American. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so we can't do MAGA because that's Make America Great Again. And you racist George Wallace, like she spits all the same crap that Brandon spits. You could tell they both have the same playbook. And quite honestly, I think she writes his speeches and she writes his scripts because, or whoever, they got the same speech writer. They got the same notes being passed to them because they literally both say the same things. And if you listen to the whole thing, you'll hear like George Wallace call, MAGA, Trump, of course, keeps getting mentioned, fair share. Okay. The same talking points.
Our ancestors, newly freed people, demanded, amongst many things, a public education and healthcare. The basis for much of the public good we all continue to rely on today. It was the initiative of the formerly enslaved that spurred the appropriation of resources to create one-room schoolhouses and teacher training schools for Black women, for white women, and for Black men, the first of its kind DEI programming.
She's reaching so hard.
Black Americans have always been.
Never mind, all of that was born out of them being literally completely disenfranchised, right? Like, you can't say the same thing is happening today. Look at yourself, like the position you're in, right? You can't say the same thing's happening today. It's two different eras.
And inconveniently insisting on funding the common good from people who have always been resistant to paying for it.
Resistant to paying for it.
Despite the fact that it benefits everyone. If you go back to the newspaper articles and the first person documents of that time, you will hear the same question: how do we pay for it?
And she laughs, and she laughs, and she laughs because who cares about your spending? Who cares about your silly math and your budgets? I just need the money to do what I want to do. Y'all have given this woman license to take taxpayer money like a unlimited credit card and spend it on whatever communist ideals pop into her head or whatever been put into her head. Because I honestly don't believe she is acting completely, with autonomy, completely without some sort of influence from a higher or other power. Because yeah, it's like you can't be this dumb. Like, I just don't believe it. Especially if you're talking about being a social studies or a history teacher. Her and Brandon Johnson both claim, they both claim that they're history teachers. And it just doesn't make any sense because you got to know what communism does. Okay. There's a reason people were fleeing Cuba. There's a reason that all them Venezuelans are over here. Like, make it make sense.
Public schools benefit everyone.
The Chinese, you could go on and on.
And especially the people who live in this wonderful city. Hold on to that the public good is a good that was literally created by people who had aspirations and dreams for themselves, but their aspirations and dreams was connected to a community where everyone can get something from it.
Is that not the definition of communism? I wish he would have just said it. Just go ahead and tell us, Stacey. Is that not the definition of communism? You have your own dreams as an individual, but put them to the side for the community. And don't do the math. Don't look at the history, because that's racist.
That why they say a rising tide lifts all boats?
A famous Obama saying.
If you're still an avid consumer of the press, like y'all don't do TikTok, it was more about your habits on social media than the press. But if you're still an avid consumer of the press, you'll read that the debate in CPS is whether or not district leaders and the mayor take out a loan to make the district structure was also weighted down by unequal economic and political systems. One that fed off of poverty, a system that, like maybe today, that enables billionaires like Jeff Bezos to skip out on paying his fair share while sending pop princess Katy Perry
so not
to the moon for 10 minutes.
We already did that. I'm sorry. I must have clicked this thing.
How many special education teachers come with a trip to the moon? Sometimes you have to go backwards to go forward. Of the press, you'll read that the debate in CPS is whether or not district leaders and the mayor take out a loan to make the district structural deficit more manageable.
She's back to the
but
loan,
you hear
guys.
It like it's a math problem, right? Think about it.
She's back to the loan, guys. Don't do the math. Just take the loan, okay? This is you at the car dealership with Stacy Davis Gates. Just bring your mama in here and have her co-sign. I promise you'll be driving today in a Volkswagen, the people's car.
That the debate in CPS is whether or not district leaders and the mayor take out a loan to make the district structural deficit more manageable. But you hear it like it's a math problem, right? Think about it.
It is. It is, ma'am.
520.
I'm sorry, Miss History teacher. I'm sorry you didn't go visit the other little silly math class, but it is a math problem. It's always a math problem. The numbers have to number. The math has to math. Make it make sense. Okay? That's part of history too. You can't do anything without the math. But I guess she figures we can, and we could just look back later and go, whoops, how'd that happen? Like the layoffs, but we'll get to that.
9 million. It's $1.2 billion. But it's never about what budgets are about. Budgets are about choice.
Not math, choice. You have a choice if 1 + 1 = 2. 1 + 1 = 2 is a choice, okay? You don't have to know that it actually should equal 2.
Shout out to the choice movement in the room. But the budget and its choices manifest into real.
Side note, it looks like she beats men. I'm just going to put that out there. Like, total side note. I could totally see her hitting some guy with a bar stool. Like, it's given. You know what I mean? She don't like math. She's like, what you mean these drinks cost $40? Bar stools to the head.
Real impact that our young people get to experience. So choices about the budget left students at Julian High School in 2025 without a math teacher for nearly a year.
Like, how'd that happen?
It left Clemente High School without a chemistry teacher, but with an industrious high school senior who taught the class.
Did y'all pay her for that?
Those are choices, you all.
If I was her mama, I'd be
Those are not occurrences. Those are choices. And that is because the state legislature and the governor, matter of fact, every state legislature.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I just happened to Google that real quick, or at ChatGPT says that the claim of having no math teacher for a year at Julian High School is unsubstantiated. And that's per several several outlets. It says the school staff directory confirms at least one math teacher is listed. Example, diverse learner math teacher. Says there's other public data available showing a 13-to-1 ratio with standard staffing levels. So no evidence of any outlets, including CPS own directories, reporting that Percy L. Julian lacked a math teacher for an entire year. So there you go. And then her claim of Clemente High School, no teacher for months, states that Block Club Chicago reported that during the fall and winter of 2023, Clemente Community Academy, Humboldt Park, operated a sophomore chemistry class without a qualified teacher for several months. Student Carolina Carchi, 15, stepped up to teach the class herself for 2 months, covering topics like balancing equations and properties of matter. CPS data shows 46% of Clemente teachers had more than 10 absences in 2023, amounting to chronic staffing issues. So wasn't a budget issue, it was an absenteeism amongst your teachers issue. Although substitute teachers were sent, none had the expertise to teach chemistry properly. A permanent chemistry teacher was in place until fall of 2024. That sounds like a structural issue you guys are having. So it was confirmed that there was no teacher for chemistry at Clemente High School, but it makes you wonder, if it was more so the culture and the fact that you guys just don't seemingly have the grasp on allocating your own resources. That's what I'm gathering, but I could be wrong.
Every governor, they've chosen, because they take votes, to send an adequate amount of funding to the state's largest school district. School communities, not just a school district, but school communities that educate more Black children, more unhoused children, more bilingual speaking children, more special education children than any other place in the state of Illinois. And we, voters and leaders, parents and concerned citizens, can continue to accept it and move on like it's okay. See, I'm not just implicating those we vote for, I'm implicating those who also vote. That's right. You see the relationship and the collective responsibility we get to have? These are not math problems.
These are math problems. Please stop doing
between
that.
Whether students get a math teacher or a chemistry teacher or nothing at all. Make no mistake, what's happening in CPS is connected to a larger national agenda to strip public education down to its bare bones.
Or it's your issue with math. Like, how should you get to sit up here and lie like this?
Consumer of the press, you'll read that the debate in CPS is whether or not district leaders and the mayor take out a loan to make the district's structural deficit more manageable. But you hear it like it's a math problem, right? Yeah. Think about it.
All right.
Or do we join the coalition of the willing? Hear me when I'm telling you. Or do we join the coalition of the willing to complete the unfinished work of the Freedmen's Bureau? For those of you,
like the first of all, the church, the congregation of affirmative, of approval should be indicative enough of the indoctrination, because it's all emotional. It's all, she literally is telling you, stop doing math and think with your heart. Think with your feelings, think with what I'm telling you to think, which is you have two choices here, the window or the stairs. You either can do the math or you can fund communism. And doing the math is racist. So are you a racist or are you a communist? These are the only choices you have, people.
If you don't know, the Freedmen's Bureau was the government agency that resourced Reconstruction. So they both served as a Department of Justice, a Department of Health, and a Department of Education, and many centers around Southern America post-Civil War. Trump has picked his side
Oh, she bad.
And he spells it out in Project 2025. He is here to win the relitigation of the Civil War and finish the work of the Confederacy.
That is literally another quote that Brandon Johnson has spewed out. So again, they have the same script.
But what are we leading?
2 history teachers running the city of Chicago, relitigating whatever they want to relitigate, but it's a problem if Trump does it, right?
What is the resolution of the unfinished work of the Freedmen's Bureau? This is a blue state, right? How many underground railroad sites have you taken kids to on a field trip?
My God.
My
This
God.
is a blue county, isn't it? A blue city with blue executive and legislative leadership. Which side are we on?
Which side are we on? You only have one choice. That's what she's telling you. You're either a racist or a communist. You're hearing it from Stacy Davis herself.
One of Trump's first acts was the termination of national parks employees. I think Friends of the Park would agree with me that there are a few other centers in public life that is the clear symbol of common good and community. Parks serve as a space, no matter what economic space you come from, what racial space you come from, what neighborhood you're driving in from. That park is an equalizer because you get to enjoy.
The park is an equalizer because everyone there becomes the same. Is that not a defining characteristic of communism? That you want everyone to be on the same level with access to the same amount of resources, regardless of whatever work they've put in, regardless of whatever contributions they've made to society. You want everyone to be equalized.
In the same way. It's a gathering place set aside for our enjoyment. Think about it. There's no product, there's no vending, there's no commerce. I ain't talking about downtown. And that is an anathema.
You can talk about any side of town. There's peddling literally everywhere. There's restaurants on most of the beachfronts, and the Park District is running that. But okay.
But that is an anathema to Donald Trump's worldview. So Donald Trump,
the obsession,
and his application of Project 2025 is getting a 3-for-1 with this move alone. He gets to fire workers, weaken their union, and create more division by getting rid of workers who maintain the park where we get to actually see each other outside of our divisions. Donald Trump.
I mean, you might see more people outside of your divisions if you hadn't attacked them right away. I mean, you literally just said people in the audience might be, avid readers of Illinois policy or whomever else has a dissenting opinion about your actions with the CTU and Chicago Public Schools and maybe our mayor, right? And you immediately liken them to, the Confederacy. Not a very welcoming conversation.
Trump is.
You said I was the abomination of abomination. That's a pretty bad way to start a conversation, ma'am.
Dismantling the idea of the common good and community. One of the first social studies lessons taught in kindergarten classrooms is of community. Students leave the lesson identifying the common good through institutions like libraries, schools, and parks. They come to understand
identifying the common good through institutions like libraries, schools, and parks. They drag story time to your parks to the libraries with your money. You can't even get a FOIA completed with complete information on how these people are funding this, right? They begged you to okay loans. Well, they don't have to beg you because the mayor made sure he got rid of a school board and cleared the way and fired a CEO and everything else they could do in their power to make sure that they could have full reign to borrow money and deplete our resources after they've given all this money to the migrants to do whatever they want to do so that they can make a communist society out of your children and out of, I hate when it does the emojis. The wrong time is the wrong time to celebrate that. Okay. You've already made it clear that you don't care about how we feel about anything. And you've already made it plain that you are creating a communist society, and whatever resources, whatever programs, whatever agencies are at your disposal via Brandon Johnson by proxy. We have literally allowed a communist takeover in City Hall and the executive office. Y'all gotta wake up. And the teachers are signing off on it because I guess they don't understand history that they teach in the math, obviously. So the math teachers and the social studies teachers are failing themselves.
And the connectedness of people and institutions.
There will be no more raises for you, okay? Because then it's going to become, well, she's going to feed you now, right? She's going to feed you now. And then it's going to become, well, now for the common good, you can't take raises anymore, teachers. You need to take a cut for the common good. She ain't going to take no cut. Her friends ain't going to take no cut. But she going to make sure everybody else take one. Let's get to the layoffs, actually. So yeah, I just want to make sure like, y'all can listen to the rest of that, but she pretty much just goes on to keep saying that she's a communist. She don't know what that means though, but she's a communist. I think there was a clip that was taken where she says, "These are our children." Hold on, let me see if I find that one because I don't know why I didn't mark that. All right. They never learn. Okay. This is from the Western Journal. I don't know what you're doing here. I don't need ads. They never learn. Teachers Union official brags that the schools own your children. Okay. Meet Stacy Davis Gates, the newest reason for you to homeschool your children. That's not her official job title, but it might as well be, at least if you live in one of America's biggest cities. Davis Gates is the president of the Chicago Teachers Union, a position she's already been immensely quotable in. My personal favorite from last March, quote, "They're going to say these are great proposals and can't nobody pay for it." Love her grasp of grammar. And CTU will, with all of this, that, and the other. And who's going to pay for it, Stacy? You see how she keeps dropping this in your head that you shouldn't worry about the money. You shouldn't worry about the math. That's why y'all didn't have a math teacher, Julian, for a year, according to you. You probably silenced the math teacher that was there. It was like, don't teach them kids no math. Stop asking that question. That's what she says. I'm literally reading this. Stop asking that question. Ask another question. How do you not see where this is going? Okay, on Monday, she was speaking at the City Club of Chicago, and the takeaway she wanted was for the city's residents to blame. Y'all just heard it here. They're not lying. To blame President Donald Trump, not the city's broken politics, for the fact that Chicago public schools are running a deficit of over $500 million. Maybe they should have asked that question after all, right? Because you can't keep saying the math ain't mathing when you ain't even tried to pull up no formulas and you ain't pulled out no calculator and you say a budget ain't about math. It's just a choice. The budget and its choices manifest, this is her quote, "The budget and its choices manifest into real impact that our young people get to experience," end quote, Davis Gates said in the appearance, according to the Chicago Sun-Times. Quote, "Choices about the budget left students at Julian High School in 2025 without a math teacher for nearly a year, and Clemente High School without a chemistry teacher. Those are not occurrences, those are choices," end quote. And again, I looked that up and I could not find any evidence that this is true. It's worth pointing out that CPS doesn't have a whole lot of good choices on the table. You did this to yourself, CPS. The mayor, Davis Gates supports, progressive Democrat Brandon Johnson, doesn't have the money to give them, and neither does the city council. This means taking out a loan or facing cuts. But I digress, since that wasn't the only failure of public schools that she pointed out during her speech, although the second and arguably most important was rather unintentional. She argued that her schools, which she admitted are hemorrhaging money and can't educate your kids, basically own your children. You can't manage a budget. You can't teach them how to make it out here in the world. Your only job is to make sure that they have enough academic background, enough academic foundation, basic arithmetic, basic reading, writing, right? Researching, being able to go to a library. That was at least what we were, I was fortunate enough to go to a magnet school, which, they don't like that no more. They don't like you being able to go outside your neighborhood and go to a school. But I was fortunate enough to be able to go to a magnet school and go to a gifted program in junior high school where we had access to a full library. We learned the Dewey Decimal System. We learned how to research. Basic grammar, understanding denotation and connotation. I grew up reading the dictionary on my own accord. So I thankfully was able to understand and grasp that. They don't teach that stuff in schools. They barely even teach you. They don't even teach cursive anymore. And you see, they're not teaching math, and because math doesn't matter to the head of the CTU. Where's this going, guys? The remarks came after she noted, quote, one of the first social studies lessons taught in kindergarten classroom is of community. And because of this, kids, quote, come to understand the connectedness of people and institutions. She's teaching your children communism from age 4 and 5. That's what she's saying. Quote, the attack on the idea of community is exactly the point, end quote. She said, pointing to the, quote, right-wing outrage, end quote, over a teacher who quoted African-American author James Baldwin during a rally last year. Quote, the children are always ours, she said, end quote. Every single one of them all over the globe. Quote, and what comes next is CTU, you think your children are as children, she said with a derisive sneer. I don't know why I didn't put that according, because I was tired of hearing it. And what comes next is CTU. I'm sorry. Yes, we do, she said to applause. We do. CTU thinks all children belong to it, and their socialist conspiracy ideology. She again lapsing into the sneer again. Well, I don't know all about that, or I don't know about all that. Sorry. She said she wasn't gonna snap her neck, but it was giving neck snap in that quote right there. Okay, so that's how I gotta read it, with the neck snap. The only way it comes out right. Well, I don't know about all that, but we like children. We educate them, we nurture them, we protect them, we support them, we negotiate for them, we create space for them. We even have them in our homes, but you don't have yours in a Chicago public school. Oh, here it is right here. So sorry. You guys can hear it yourself.
Baldwin says the children are always ours.
Always. Yes. Always.
Every single one of them, all over the globe. And what comes next is, CTU thinks your children are its children.
This is what y'all want.
Yes, we do. We do. We do. CTU thinks all children belong to it, and there's socialist conspiracy ideology. Well, I don't know about all that, but we like children. We educate them, we nurture them, we protect them, we support them, we negotiate for them, we create space for them. We even have them in our homes.
Please don't have them in your homes. I'm scared. All right, so got to see it yourself. You now have all your nightmares with her little witch voice. Thus the inspiration for the thumbnail. So she goes on. Also note the bookends here. She manages to nail that your only two roles as educators should be to educate my children and to have your children in your own homes and decide for them what kind of education they receive. You have no input there. So if you want to influence your children in the way to reflect your values, you gonna have to get them up out of there. That's it. That's the only reason you should be receiving my tax dollars, especially when you seem to be so profligate with them in Chicago, but really at any time. You aren't paid to negotiate, nurture, protect, or support my child in anything other than their education, especially when so much of Davis Gates' agenda doesn't involve education, but inculcation. Earlier in the speech, for example, she compared ending DEI initiatives to, quote, white supremacy. Challenges to post-Civil War Reconstruction, a stretch that may boggle your mind unless you live in this woman's coddled bubble. Exactly. This gets no better in context if you want to sit through the whole speech. Relevant comments begin at the 35-minute mark. So yeah, perhaps unsurprisingly, this drew the ire of commenters on X. Oh my God, this is so vile from Ploppity Plop there. They wouldn't treat a dog the way those children are treated. Their children don't go to schools in that district, and they don't live in the community served by the public school systems that employs them. Exactly. I love it when they're transparent about how sinister they are. And I mean, she's gotten a lot of confidence recently. I mean, especially being reelected. And of course they are. We're just coming off of the Biden era administration where the president said in the same speech, mind you, that we've got to stop making teachers the target of culture wars, then told a group of teachers that their charges are, quote, not somebody else's children. They're like yours when they're in the classroom. No, they aren't. Exactly. They never learn. But if the left thinks that way, the right might as well do the same and educate their own kids, lest they fall into the hands of those who nakedly wish to get paid for indoctrinating them. Okay. I will keep telling y'all over and over again. I am an adult learner at UIC, and I'm seeing it with my own eyes. The children, the kids that are there are already well versed in all of the Marxist policies and white supremacy and Black Lives Matter and anti-police rhetoric, and they have no room for dissent. The conversation is just so absurdly, presumptively liberal that you wouldn't dare to think a thought outside of liberalism and far left-wing ideology. You wouldn't dare to question anything that the teacher puts in front of you that doesn't align with your worldview, and is insisting that you're to be a rainbow flag toting, immigrant sympathizing over your own community, just completely unbased in the breadth of who everyone is in the history of the nation. Like, you're supposed to be pigeonholed into this thought process of MAGA, blue MAGA, right? Blue no matter who. And there is no room for dissent. That literally, it's such an intense cloud of indoctrination that you can't see clearly. There's no way for you to even think if you're not used to being a dissenter, if you're not used to speaking out on your own. Hell, I don't even say anything half the time because I'm like, they not ready for this smoke. Because if I said anything that I remotely question the narrative, the whole class would be derailed. I would probably end up, in a long meeting with the teacher, wondering why my grade is suffering. It's that bad. And so I don't want this for our children. They've already suffered enough. But let's move on here. Oh, okay, there we go. Child, that lady crazy, y'all. Let's see what we got here. No, there we go. All right. And so I wanted to just explore the idea of what is grooming versus indoctrination, because we've had enough instances of teachers taking inappropriate actions with children. And I feel like that's two sides of the same coin, grooming children for, inappropriate sexual behavior versus grooming children or indoctrinating them with ideology and inappropriate thought monopoly. Okay. It's really not that much different. You're farming their brains for your own activism. Don't do math. Don't question. Make a choice with your money, but don't do the math. Remember that your choice is you're racist or you're a communist, right? And so let's just look at this. So grooming, the definition is a manipulative process where a person builds trust with a target, often a child, can be an adult, but often a child, to exploit or abuse them later. Versus indoctrination, which is a process of teaching someone to accept a set of beliefs uncritically, often ideological or political. Okay. The intent with grooming is to personal gain, usually abuse, control, or exploitation. The intent with indoctrination is ideological conformity and allegiance to a belief system. Now, Davis Gates stands to gain a lot from her indoctrination. So I don't see where this difference is between that and the grooming intent. Okay. Tactics of grooming include secrecy, emotional manipulation, isolation of the child or adult, incremental trust building. Okay. The indoctrination tactics are repetition. Okay. So like I said, she and Brandon have the same script. Authority-based teaching, discouraging critical thinking. Warning signs, sudden changes in behavior, secrecy around relationships, fear of authority figures, loss of independent thought, parroting slogans. I'm sorry. So I went on to the indoctrination. Sorry. So the grooming warning signs are sudden changes in behavior, secrecy around relationships, and fear of authority figures, right? And then the warning signs of indoctrination is loss of independent thought, parroting slogans, hostility to opposing views. How many of you have watched videos of these people doing these No Kings protests and they have no idea why they're out there? Anti-ICE. I'm just against ICE. Okay. And then you ask them a follow-up question, like, well, how do you propose that the U.S. protect its borders? Or did you know that there's no difference between a criminal detainer and a civil detainer when it comes to federal law and ICE procedures? Do you know that, quite frankly, the sanctuary policies, at least in Chicago and Illinois, do not dictate that we're supposed to be spending millions of dollars on people to give them public welfare just because they've crossed the border illegally? Any follow-up questions, or like how they, the whole thing with, Trump got rid of abortion. No, he returned the power to the states. But so many people are indoctrinated and spewing it. Like I keep hearing it. Like I said, from academic minds to the media to our own politicians saying that we've lost the right to abortion. And it's like, no, we didn't. It was returned to the states. People making up stories about people who've been criminally held negligent and liable for abortions since Trump's taken off. Has not happened. People saying that blacks are going to get deported next. Has not happened. Couldn't happen. Doesn't even make sense. And if it could happen, what are you going to do about it other than cry about it on the internet? But this is the indoctrination. This is the repeating of these lies to the point that you cannot even understand what you're saying. You're just parroting a slogan. You're just repeating what you've heard from someone else, and you have no idea how to think independently about what's happening right in front of your own eyes. The targets for grooming are individuals, often children. The targets for indoctrination are groups, typically students in a school setting. Okay. So like I said, I'm seeing with my own eyes plenty of that. All right. And then again, more grooming versus indoctrination. Behavior as described by critics, a grooming trait. I'm sorry. Behavior is described by critics, and then promoting ideological beliefs without parental consent. Is grooming the same? Yes. Okay. Indoctrination? Yes. Okay. It says similar, but I mean, come on. You're gonna promote ideological beliefs without parental consent. You're gonna believe this person is able to tell you to be quiet. The secrecy, the swearing to secrecy with the grooming and everything like that. That is you changing this child's framework of dynamics and what is appropriate. So I would say yes, not similar, but whatever. CTU accusation context with critical race theory, with DEI, gender ideology taught without notice. They can transition your children without telling you. They can tell your child, hey, oh, you don't feel like you're depressed because you feel like you should be a boy and you were born female. Okay, well, we can change you to a boy or vice versa. And your mom doesn't have to know, and your dad doesn't have to know. That is a grooming trait. That is indoctrination. Tell me it's different. Show me how. Encouraging secrecy or discouraging parental involvement. So grooming, yes. Indoctrination, yes. Parents are told to not interfere with classroom content. I remember when they were asking us if we wanted our children to learn about gender ideology and different identities and stuff like that. And you could opt out at one point. I've not seen any opt-out paperwork since that first time, I don't think. And I'm sure this is, it varies by school, it varies by district, but we are at a point of no return because too many parents have fallen prey to this and not stood up for it. Even with like the vaccination. So it's the same thing. You were told to just not question, just take it, just give it to your kid, even though the children were at a risk for myocarditis, even though the children were not at high risk for fatalities due to COVID, but they were nonetheless encouraged to go ahead and take the shot. Building emotional loyalty to institution over family. Yes. Grooming trait. Indoctrination trait. Yes. Children belong to CTU rhetoric. Like we just heard it right there. So it's the same thing. Using emotionally loaded language to shame dissent. So it's similar to grooming, but it is definitely a trait of indoctrination because students are labeled bigoted or hateful for opposing views. Like I just said, I'm at UIC, I'm seeing it with my own eyes. There is no room for you to even squeeze in a thought that doesn't align with the popular opinion and with the what the census is of you being liberal and far left leaning. Repetition of activist slogans or symbols. Grooming trait, no, but indoctrination, yes. So Black Lives Matter, trans flags, Palestinian slogans in the classrooms. There have been reports of classrooms with no American flag, but they have a pride flag. They have the trans flag. They have the Palestinian flag, but no mention of America. You know what I mean? Like, a little crazy. Obstructing academic accountability in favor of ideology. A grooming trait, no. But it is an indoctrination trait shown by deprioritizing test scores, prioritizing liberation curricula. And I mean, you just literally heard that from Supreme Court just made a ruling that parents can opt out. I don't know what you're talking about specifically, but yeah, I'm sure Supreme Court has been, been on notice because Trump is taking them to task. Like it's a bunch of DEI hires. Justice Ketanji Jackson Brown just made an ass of herself in the last Supreme Court session. But yeah, these people they need to learn. So I think we already saw this clip where she basically says, you guys just got to go ahead and give me more money. Just give me more money. Okay. So when community becomes a cage, okay, the hidden cost of forced collectivism, because that's what she wants you to do. She wants you to pay for your own communism jump board here. She gonna springboard your kids into communism and you got to pay for it. And don't say nothing. Okay. Quote, community values, okay, do not equal centralized control. Right. So she wants you to think that having community, which is not a bad thing. Right. So that's the point here, is that having community, a sense of community, is not a bad thing. But once it becomes that your individual priorities have to go way to the back under the dirt, okay, because of some centralized power, CTU, Stacy Davis Gates, Brandon Johnson. She just admitted that they're going to usher in they're going to resist and usher in a new era of Reconstruction based on their worldview, not yours, not your children, right? Not America as a whole, definitely not MAGA, definitely not moderates, right? Collective welfare should empower, not erase individual voice. So again, if you are not on this fringe, if you are not far left, they are going to tell you you're a racist. You have the choice, be a communist or be a racist. And that is unfair. So why you want to get rid of capitalism in a capitalist society? Why do you want to get rid of democracy and freedom of speech and basically the entire Bill of Rights in America, but then you want to lean on American values that allow you to speak up, but nobody else can? It doesn't make sense. We all have a voice. We should all be have a seat at the table to be able to express our dissent or whatever contrarian beliefs that we may have, and come to a consensus, or just be able to go do what we want to do where we want to do it at with our resources. Leaders who suppress dissent in the name of unity aren't serving the community. They're extracting from it. Okay. So again, she's giving you, it's a choice. Don't do the math. She's telling you what to think. Don't do the math. Just give me the money and let me tell you how it's going to get spent. Me and Brandon, actually just me. Brandon works for me. Okay. So yeah, she just wants to be a leech on your tax money. Real community care is accountable, transparent, and voluntary, not ideologically or not ideological or coerced. So that's just meaning that, you're supposed to be showing us them audits, ma'am. Okay. You weren't supposed to be trying to fire a whole school board and install who you wanted to put in there to just get loans and don't question the math. Right? You're supposed to have real community input and not, go do things that are against most parents' values, or not, have these meetings in a more proactive way to make sure you're getting everybody's opinion that you could possibly get, and get these people involved in their education, and base it off of research, and base it off of facts, not off of feelings, not off of being indoctrinated with these communist ideals. All right. And so the connection between community values and communism. So communism is a theory, emphasizes collective ownership, class equality, and the idea that resources and decisions should benefit the whole community, not individuals. Okay. Very anti-American, very anti-capitalist, right? Core principle: from each according to its ability, to each according to his needs. So again, the steal from the rich, give to the poor mentality, but it leads to an entitlement. And it's still, if it goes unchecked, which it will, because look at who's at the wheel right now. She's already showing she don't care about the math, don't think, don't question, just do it. And so you're going to centralize that power with somebody who's essentially going to oppress, again, the needy class, which is our children, working families. 2, community values in healthy societies typically center on mutual aid, local input, shared responsibilities, and support for the vulnerable. Emphasizes bottom-up cooperation, often rooted in culture, faith, or local tradition, not ideology. Okay, so you can look out for the weak and feeble and share that responsibility, but putting the foot on the neck of everybody who's just trying to make it, demonizing, people who create jobs, demonizing people for being white, like it's a little ridiculous. Okay. And then the bottom up, emphasizing bottom up cooperation, often rooted in culture, faith, or local tradition, not ideology. So in a healthy society, you're gonna have cooperation from whomever, but they don't have to all agree. You don't all have to agree on everything. Not your faith necessarily, not your but we do have to have some common morals, right? And I mean, it's like, you're an American, like there's no reason for you to be anti freedom of speech and you live in America. That I just hate when I hear people like, well, they need to be shadow banned, or they need to be, people who over moderate comments in their public spaces and things like that. Like that, to me, that's like, you can't handle a dissenting opinion. You can't handle somebody who has a different view from you. I mean, you could just ignore them, or if you feel like it's threatening your position, then have the better argument. Like, at the end of the day, just have the better argument. Where they overlap. Both promote solidarity, resource sharing, and collective care. Both can oppose extreme individualism or unchecked capitalism. So communism definitely is going to oppose extreme individualism and unchecked capitalism. Like I said earlier, that's why these people are all fleeing from Venezuela. That's why all these people was fleeing from Cuba, China. You know what I'm saying? Like, there is no individualism. You are sacrificing yourself for the whole. It's very antithetical to America. Where problems arise from ideal to exploitation. So this is when the community becomes communism and it goes too far. So one, in theory, decisions benefit when community becomes code for obedience. I'm sorry. In theory, decisions benefit everyone, but in practice, leaders define what the community needs, a la Stacy Davis Gates. And dissent becomes selfish or even dangerous. Okay. So again, resist. You're what side are you on? This sounds like a gang initiation. Okay. The whole speech. Example, a parent objecting to school indoctrination may be painted as against the community or anti-equity. You saw that with yourself for yourself with Nicole Jorgis, I think is how you pronounce her name, and Shannon from Awake, Illinois, who, these guys were out speaking at these school districts against the trans violations for these trans children in sports and in girl spaces, which were in direct violation of Title IX executive orders enacted by Trump. So, you're labeling them as bullies and labeling them as anti-community and anti-equity and anti-trans kids and that they're being, like I said, bullies to children, when in all fairness, you guys are bullying all the other children. Like, if you can't see that, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you're bullying all the other kids for the sake of one child. There's a way to do this without hurting any of the children. And honestly, you guys are lying to those trans kids, but that's a whole nother episode. 2, erasure of individual rights and voice. True community values uplift individuals within the collective. Communism, often demands sacrificing individual needs or liberties for the quote, greater good as defined by those in charge. Results, silencing of minorities within the collective, especially dissidents, whistleblowers, or nonconformists. So again, you don't have your First Amendment right. You feel like you can't think outside of the box. You can't act outside of the box. Within the law, but outside of the box. It's crazy. And you guys don't see it. And you guys want more suppression of thought. More. It's like, why don't we just get rid of all of them? I wish they would take these people off the internet. I wish we could get more fact checking. I wish we could get, it's like, if it weren't for people thinking outside of the box, a lot more people would have been in trouble with a whole lot of other stuff that I can get into. But like I said, that's all for another time. 3, fundraising and resource extraction. In modern organizing, especially union-based or activist nonprofits, money is often collected in the name of justice or community welfare, but spent on bloated leadership, political agendas, or vanity projects. So again, Brandon Johnson, Stacy Davis Gates, they want to, she got her budget. He want to throw money at a reparations study. Throwing money at certain projects and things in different neighborhoods. But it's like, at the end of the day, what is it actually doing? Especially when you spend all this money on bringing all these illegals over here and trying to put them up in a better position than the so-called communities you cared about, Black and brown, disinvested South and West sides. Example, teachers union demanding dues for, quote, student success, but funding PACs, okay, political action committees, strikes, and political campaigns unrelated to classrooms, right? And then don't remind us of how they were marching the kids down to go vote. And I'm sure after indoctrinating them for hours and hours with how they should be voting. 4, forced collectivism and lack of transparency. Unlike voluntary community giving, for example, tithing, mutual aid, dues, taxes, and donations in centralized systems are compulsory and opaque. Questions to ask: if we're all in this together, why can't I see where the money goes? Exactly. Where them audits at, girl? 5, moral superiority used as cover for control. We're doing it for the children, for the workers, for equity. These phrases create emotional shields to deflect criticism. Why are you doing the math? The math is racist, right? Do you want to do the math or do you want to go home? Leaders become untouchable because they can because any attack on them is reframed as an attack on the community itself, right? So we can't say nothing about her. We can't say anything about her or Brandon Johnson because it's racist. And if you're on the side against her or Brandon Johnson, you're automatically MAGA. You're automatically a Confederalist. You're automatically trying to relitigate the Civil War. Where are the audits, girl? Required audits from fiscal year 2019 to 2024 have not been published. Members sued in 2024, October. Judge ruled in May 2025 that CTU must respond by June 16th or face enforcement. If and that date has passed, so I'm wondering, did we ever get anything? If CTU believes in accountability, why refuse regular audits? Why, especially while increasing dues and funding political campaigns? So let me just see real quick. Did we ever get the CTU audits? Okay. I need to know. Yeah. So as of now, they have still not published the audits since September of 2020. There are no reports, no press releases, or CTU bulletins indicating the audited financials have been released following the June 16th deadline. CTU appears to have made no public filings or updates indicating compliance. Implications. CTU, we can say that too, CTA, CTU, all of them, remains non-compliant with its own bylaws and the court's order. The lawsuit is still active. CTU is likely awaiting court enforcement or pursuing settlement talks. Like, what is this? So now you're about to get sanctioned for no audits. But don't do the math, y'all. Just keep trusting that this is for the community. Okay. And so Pedro Martinez, as you know, put in a real fight. And I wish I would have clipped it where he starts speaking of his wife to juxtapose how old girl has something to say about being married. Oh, snap. Hold on. Let's see if it's working. Why you hating? Maybe I got too many windows open. Hold on, y'all. 2 seconds here. Get out of there. Pedro Martinez. There we go. It's hating, y'all. Hold on 1 second. Trying to make sure I got it. Hopefully that's working. How would I know?
Stacy Davis Gates, who's actually here next week, having a similar chat. Hope you all come back for that. And
worst
she's similar,
35 minutes of my life.
I think it was 2 years ago. You guys were going down to Springfield.
It was like
together,
an hour.
right? And that was a united front. There wasn't a strike. You know, we've been getting used to strikes in Chicago. So that all kind of went well. Here we are, and you're suing, right? What happened?
So then a couple of things happened. So number one, everybody, this is again what I said about making sure that the truth is what's being shared. It is about standing up for what's right and with integrity. It is one thing to say that you fully support fully resourcing schools. It's another thing to say, well, you know, let's put the district in financial distress so that there's a bailout, right? And we're seeing a similar strategy play out right now for CTA. So it's obvious, like it's, you see it, you're seeing it play out. And for me, and look, I'm a kid who grew up on CTA. By the way, one of my highest paying jobs when I was in college was a CTA ticket agent. I was, you know, I did all the breaks. So I have a lot of compassion for CTA. But how do I go to families, Dan, to say, hey, trust me, we're going to put the district in financial distress. We're going to lay off thousands of teachers, but then we'll figure out how to hire them back. Or we're going to, you know, saddle the district with, or that already has, by the way, $9 billion in debt. When I was CFO, we had the highest credit ratings, because this is going to be out there, you'll hear it, highest credit ratings that we've ever had. We had over $1 billion in the bank. We never had to borrow for payroll. And yes, the district was still very severely, well, actually was smaller in terms of funding, very underfunded. The district we were just putting in place a lot of the transformation that you're seeing today. You're seeing a lot of the results. We were just putting just the beginning of that work. And so now to go fast forward, when instead of doing the right thing, instead of what the union advocated for, which is to release these $1 billion of tax, property values that are being withheld from taxing agencies called TIFs.
We need them audits, girl.
Withhold that when they were supposed to expire many times years ago. When you're being asked to consider tax increases, fee increases, reduction in services, in a city where we're already overtaxed, we're overcharged for everything, where my wife has to stand for 2 hours to get our children in a park district program, that's just wrong. I'm sorry, that is just wrong. And I get that you can't fix it all at once, but that is wrong. And then to go back after, really, and they're the ones, CTU was the ones that literally brought to my attention the TIFs. I'm embarrassed. I was the chief financial officer. I knew TIFs existed, but I thought, okay, I'm a Chicago kid. I heard about Millennium Park, and that was at that time was just a dream. I'm like, okay, I'm game, bring it out, because I love going to the fountain, the Buckingham Fountain. I love the lake. And then I saw corporations moving, and I'm like, okay, Chicago is really, really becoming, a national, landmark for economic development and economic power. And then I come back, and now the district is the second largest junk bond producer in the country. Our credit ratings are almost at the lowest possible because we were downgraded 34 times during the 2015-2018 era. And somehow people think doing that again, we're going to have a different result because somebody has political aspirations in Springfield. Really? And again, you're seeing it play out with CTA. Let's see how that works out, right? And they want to do it to the district. And they want me to help explain that to our teachers and to our parents, who, by the way, as you said, Dan, have been seeing walkouts every single year. I'm sorry. This is about taking a stand. This is about doing what's right. And my wife and I, to her credit, we had this.
Oh, this is the part.
And she said to me, is this the stand you're gonna take? And are you willing to risk everything? And I asked her, I said, are you willing to stand with me? And she said, yes. She said, yes. So that's what it is. And the reason.
Now see how he talked about his spouse versus how she talked about her spouse. And I wish I would have clipped the other part where Stacy Davis Gates said something about suffrage for Black men, I believe it was. And she was like, yeah, it's always the men, or it's always Black men, or something. And it's like, you don't want that teaching your boys. This is why we have a society full of these effeminate men who can't stand up for anything, who can't fight for anything, who don't know how to stand for anything, who let women run all over them, who don't know how to have a difference of opinion without going buck wild because they're too emotional and been raised by women and been suppressed so long. They don't know how to have a disagreement. They don't know that they don't have to, go back and forth with a woman and escalate a situation, because all you got to do is, stand in your manhood and you could check that real quick. Right. But I digress.
The reason we're in court, Dan, the reason we're in court, to be very, very clear, when the board decided to terminate my contract in that December special meeting, December 20th, leading into the vote, Dan, and Bill, by the way, Bill's a godsend, Bill Quinlan, everybody, he is my angel. He came swooping out of nowhere. And Bill said, Pedro, they're going to mess around with your role. They're going to try to compromise your role. Because I kept hearing the threats. If you don't leave, we're going to do all this to you. I kept hearing it. And Bill said, Pedro, let me do it. Let me put something in court. We can always withdraw it. If they do it right, if they treat you with respect, we can always withdraw it. All you've ever asked is to allow to do your work. That's all you've ever asked for. And when they voted at that time, Dan, you can find it, everybody. It's in the record. They actually passed it with, we're going to compromise his role. We're going to violate his contract. They were very blatant about it. And then that following.
They're like, to be that egregious and not care about, because you don't care about math. You don't care about the facts of history or the present. So why would you care about violating people's constitutional rights or their contracts?
Following week, who is there in negotiations as we're trying to do the best to protect our children Who is there in a complicit way but 3 board members? By the way, now sitting with us, sitting with CTU, strategizing with CTU, literally telling my staff, we got this. We got this. You don't have to make the hard decisions. We're going to make the hard decisions for you. That's why there's a court. That's why we're in court, Dan. And it is about standing up to bullies, everybody.
Period.
Because there are individuals right now that are unsung heroes who have been bullied, teachers, counselors who have had no voice, who had to do GoFundMe campaigns just to defend themselves because they questioned something that might not be right.
Questioning something that might not be right. So this is what they're indoctrinating your children, that you shouldn't question anything. You should never be a Pedro Martinez. You should never stand up for what's right. You should never risk, your career for what you believe in.
I can't stand up for myself. What message am I sending my students? What message am I sending my teachers, everybody? Just take it. It's Chicago. That's how it is. Because
Bro, he was spitting, like, for real. You can't just throw your hands up and say that's just how it is. That's how Chicago is. Well, what is Trump gonna do? And all that other crap y'all keep saying. You're at a restaurant, and I just said this to somebody the other day because they hit me with you guys are acting like if you go to the FBI about something with this administration, you guys are acting like if you go to the DOJ right now with this administration, if you go to courts right now, if you appeal to the executive branch and with this administration in the White House, because of course they're gonna all side with hating Black people because that's what you think in your little indoctrinated mind. Your little small indoctrinated mind thinks that, Trump racist, everybody appointed by Trump not gonna follow rule of law because that's what Democrats do. That's what Democrats have been doing. They've been using lawfare. They've been violating the Constitution, still doing it, still disobeying executive orders, still disobeying Supreme Court decisions. So because you think that, you're going to go, well, I'm not going to complain anyway at all, even though I know there's a problem. So I put the example. If you're at a restaurant, right? You're at a restaurant and your meal comes out and looks like shit and they expect you to pay for it. Right? Because that's what it is here, right? We're paying taxes. We're getting a meal that we ain't going to eat. They're giving all your money to the illegals. They're putting all the money and the resources behind teaching your children some shit you don't want them to learn. Meanwhile, the children can't do math. They don't understand history. They're not learning what they're supposed to be getting there to learn every day. But you're going to keep sending your money down that way, right? So you sit at the restaurant. They bring you a plate of food you didn't ask for. Are you going to sit there? You're going to eat it? You going to sit there and you're going to eat that plate? Or are you going to go because you think... You're going to sit there and eat that plate because you think, well, the guy in the kitchen voted for Trump. The guy in the kitchen was appointed by Trump. I saw he had a MAGA hat on. The guy who owns the restaurant, I saw he had a MAGA hat on. It's the only restaurant I go to. The only person I can complain to is this guy back here. But he had a MAGA hat on. He's white. He's a Republican. And so I'm not going to complain at all. I'm just going to keep eating this shit meal that I have to pay for. Make it make sense. What is wrong with y'all? What is wrong? So I don't want to hear it. Stay out of my comments telling me, what do you think Trump's going to do? What do you think this administration is going to do? Because I'm going to make you feel stupid every time you do it. I get no more replies after I pose it like that. Because you got to be a slave in your mind that you're going to sit there and keep eating some slop that you don't want because you're just so sure the guy who gave you the slop or the guy over the guy who gave you the slop is not going to side with you because y'all have a difference of opinion on some other issues. Are you there to serve slop or no? I came in here for non-slop. I gave you money for non-slop. And you gave me slop. Give me the manager. Oh, he voted for Trump. I don't give a rat's ass. Because you best believe when the next administration come in, and if they so happen to be the Democrat, I'm going to do the same damn thing. I'm writing my letters. I'm sending in my complaints because the law is the law is the law. The law don't care about no damn blue. It don't care about no damn red. It don't care about no MAGA. It doesn't care about any of that. She can sit here and say we relitigating the Civil War. We really relitigating the Confederacy. The law is the law is the law. Red and blue had to pass them laws. However you trying to chop it up, both sides had to pass them laws. So do you believe in this country? Do you believe in the Constitution? Do you believe in the law? Do you believe in your sovereignty as a nation? Do you believe in your individual rights given to you by the Bill of Rights and the Constitution? Do you believe in your human rights? Do you believe in the civil rights movement? Do you believe in that shit? Or are you Trump, bad, scared, slave? Wake up. Y'all sound crazy. And I feel sorry for your kids because they got some cuck-ass, punk-ass parents.
Because when there's absolute power, you don't have a shot. And guess what? There's absolute power right now going on in different parts of our society, isn't there? And how does that feel, everybody? So when you have absolute power, I don't care which side of the politics you're on, because it's not about politics, Dan. It's when you have absolute power and instead of doing the right thing, you abuse that, that's what's wrong. And that's what I'm standing up for. And that's what I was willing to use my job for.
You sound like he was finna get into that TDS. He sound like he's finna dip his toe in that TDS pool, but he pulled it back in because he said what he said, what I just got through saying. It ain't about politics. What is right and what is wrong? Y'all too worried about the wrong shit. The man got on a Lakers jersey, and I root for the Bulls. So I ain't finna ask him to help me make this police report, even though he witnessed this assault on me. Like, y'all sound crazy.
And I will do it again, Dan.
And that's coming from a child of the public schools and a product of the public schools.
I might have had one more clip, but yeah, Pedro ate that. Like, I love it. Oh yeah, here we go. Don't play with me.
That's how you contrast challenges and opportunities of leading large districts like SA, ISD, and CPS. I'd like to take that and broaden it and just say, you've been around the country. You are from Chicago. You spent most of your life here. But where do we compare to other districts, and what are we? What are we?
So what I would say, everybody, is that Chicago, because we put in strong talent systems, and Ben Fulton here is with us. I mean, who's leading amazing strategy work in our talent department. We put in strong talent systems, and the leadership programs that we have here are at all levels. So the teacher leadership programs, I mean, they're just, some of the best I've seen in the country. How much we invest in principal leadership, again, some of the best in the country.
No
and now
excuses.
We've been doing a lot more at the central office level. And so, Dan, there's no shortcuts to this work. It's about leadership. And it's about aligning, having a clear vision, aligning the resources. So that differentiates the district above everybody else. And what's fascinating is, at the same time, I've never seen the kind of handicaps that exist in the system. They're unique to Chicago. So
the machine,
all the governance
y'all.
issues, right?
He's talking about the democratic machine, handicaps that are unique to Chicago. It is the mob mentality that has never left. I think Harold Washington said that the machine is dead, but the ghost of the machine lives on. The aldermen and how they sided with Capone, all of that. Okay. Like, it's still there. It ain't went nowhere. And then now you got black folk and Latinos doing the same stuff that they keep telling you Trump is doing, that the white people are doing. No, it's you, my brother, my black and brown brother and sister.
Fact that we're going through so much shift and so much change and so fast. I mean, look at how many board members I've worked through just in my first, just in 4 years. And
all because he didn't want to agree and go along to get along.
And you also have, the complexities of, we don't, the district doesn't choose principals. Local school councils do. I'm not saying that's good or bad. I just say it just creates so whenever local school council gets upset because they put in a principal and then they have regrets and they come back to me and it's to say, why didn't you, get rid of them? I'm like, That's not the way it works in Chicago. By the way, everybody's shocked around the country when they tell them that. Nobody understands that because it doesn't exist anywhere else. The fact that we have this complicated financial system of two pensions, who, by the way, there's a conflict of interest there in terms of who governs them.
Right.
And it's Chicago taxpayers that are paying the tab on both of them.
Either way.
This issue of TIFs. I dare anybody in the audience, any of the researchers, find me another district, another city or state that has $20 billion, and you could do it relative in comparison to their local economy of properties that we don't have access to. And we haven't had access to for decades, everybody. And so when you're really, hamstringing the district in this way, and then you're complaining, oh, you don't do enough of this, enough of that, enough of this. I mean, Dan, for me, and at the same time, I'm seeing the talent of both our students and our staff. So I will say it's a huge opportunity. It's a huge opportunity for leadership. It's a huge opportunity if we can hold elected officials accountable. And I've always said this to our state leaders. I've said this to anybody who listens to me. This district, compared to not only anybody in the Midwest, but in the country, really outperforms. And what you don't want is for our district to go down a path that's happened to Detroit, that's happened to Cleveland, that's happened to Minneapolis.
Ya están
that's happened
tarde,
to
yo creo.
Indianapolis. By the way, I know those leaders and I respect them, but those districts will never come back to their heyday. So say what you want about us. If you look at our evidence, clearly outperform. Our children do so much better here. And by the way, again, doesn't mean that we don't have a ways to go. We have a ways to go. But with that, when we see the leadership that's being produced, Dan, that's why, again, I have nothing but optimism and hope for our city, because I'm seeing the results of all these students graduating. And by the way, graduating where, whether they're going into the trades, whether they're going to college, I mean, they're graduating and they're energized. I mean, they're energized. And by the way, I'm going to say my age here. I love seeing so many of our young leaders, all former CPS, and they're adults and professionals. I have nothing but pride. Because for those of us who came up, during my era, there wasn't many of us, especially Latino and Black leaders. There just wasn't. And so now you're seeing the numbers really, and that only makes our city better, everybody. It only makes us even more wonderful. And so again, that's why
only
I'm
if they're holding
the
children's interest,
as
the
much
parents'
as
interest
I
at
will
heart.
speak the truth, I will also tell you, I think,
and they're fiscally responsible. I think it was another quote out of here I wanted to grab, but I don't even remember what it was. So we're just gonna move on. But back to this. So contract costs and fiscal cliff. Okay. 1.5 billion added over 4 years to the new CTU agreement, including 4% COLA plus step increases, lifting average teacher pay from about 86,000 to 114,000. Raises alone 1.1 to 1.25 billion across contract duration. Okay. So $1.5 billion added with this last contract. Okay. Like they're getting the money to teach your kids. So I don't, I try not to get into this argument with people, but y'all got to stop saying that they're underfunded, because it's not giving underfunded right now. He even just told you the training, that the resources available are out of this world. So comparatively, we should be doing far better than we're doing, but it's all within the leadership and within this democratic machine that just assumes that we're going to just keep going along with the program and not speaking up for what we actually need for our children. CPS was already projecting $500 million dollar plus annual deficits, which the contract will push to 834 to 983 million per year. Okay. We're talking about almost $1 billion a year in deficit. Okay. Illinois Policy Institute also flags 51.5 billion plus in CTU demands, including outside wage issues like green schools and migrant stipends. Why, y'all? Why are we spending more money on the migrants? And stop calling them migrants, because if they ain't got no asylum yet, they are illegal aliens. If they ain't filed for no visas yet, If they ain't got no limit, what you call it, lawful permanent residency, call it what it is. As an extreme burden, far beyond typical teacher contracts. Okay, it's not normal what's happening here. Why layoffs are still happening. So there was just news that broke, I think, right after Stacy Davis took to that city, whatever that was called, where she just was speaking, the video we watched earlier. A couple days later, they announced that there were layoffs. So $529 million budget gap for the next year. CPS is eyeing layoffs of 1,600 to 1,700 school-based roles to help close the shortfall. So this is Pedro Martinez already laid this out. Now, this interview he did was about 2 weeks before Stacy Davis Gates interview, which was about 2 or 3 days before they announced the layoffs. So he already said this was the play, that they're going to lay off people. They're going to put everybody in a corner, pull on your heartstrings. Woe is me. Okay. And then we're going to be sitting there wondering what's going on. Did I show y'all that video about the layoffs? Let's see if I must have put that in a different order. Let's see. There we go. Let's do this.
Big cuts are being made at Chicago public schools in an effort to shore up a massive budget deficit.
WGN's Emmy Victor is here to tell us how many people and positions will this affect. Emmy?
Damon and Jackie, more than 100 CPS employees won't have a job to go back to at the end of the summer. The district also announced they won't be filling hundreds of open positions as it works to address a budget shortfall. Chicago Public Schools is making significant layoffs. The country's third largest school district announced Friday that over 160 employees are losing their jobs. An additional 200 plus vacant positions are being eliminated, all as the district tries to close a budget deficit, one even larger than the $529 million previously reported.
I have been briefed on the budget in detail with our team, and the total funding required to cover all CPS expenses is $730 million.
CPS says the cuts include 67 employees from the school district's central and network offices, 7 employees with the Chicago Teachers Union, and 87 SEIU Local 73 members.
Now, them network positions to me are superfluous because I myself have experienced the uselessness of some of these network people. I can't say that's for everybody, but at certain schools, at certain districts, a lot of these positions are bloated. And then when you got all these vacancies, like, I'm not understanding it. I believe that, that's what I wanted to see if I could find. Pedro did mention that we need to, it's an uncomfortable conversation to have. But somebody needs to start talking about closing some of these schools. They don't have any students in there. You don't have the enrollment. Why are you trying to keep these schools up?
Nearly all of whom are crossing guards. In what CPS is calling cost-saving measures, we're told no employees assigned to schools were laid off. Union partners and employees impacted were notified throughout the week. 73! Hours ahead of a CPS board meeting on Thursday, union members rallied to prevent mass layoffs.
How can they get to school safely if there's no crossing guards out there? Get them back and forth to school.
So I'm saying to them, it is up to you to make the decision to stand by these workers who have stood by Chicago, who have stood by our school system, have stood by the students. Do the right thing by these workers.
Several board members brought up the potential cuts at the meeting and appeared aligned on the issue.
It's not time to talk about cuts.
They'll get unemployment and they'll be back in no time. I promise you.
It's not time to talk about layoffs. It's time.
And I'm not trying to be insensitive, but it's like they cut bus service already for so many people. Like, it's like this the slippery slope we've been on. And again, you guys just had a contract negotiation where if you don't do the math, this is what happens. Or if you have an agenda that you're going to corner the state for more money, this is what happens. She playing with y'all.
Time to talk about revenue strategies. How do we get more resources?
When I say she, I mean Stacy Davis Gates.
We can't cut our way to providing a joyful, equitable, and rigorous experience for our students.
Interim CPS CEO Dr. Macklin King says the district is committed to transparency and fiscal responsibility as it works to address these challenges, while also continuing to prioritize student learning.
Every decision we make must center our young people. From early literacy to post-secondary success, from safe school environments to culturally responsive teaching, we must keep students at the heart of all that we do and every decision that we make.
CPS says yesterday's layoffs were separate from school-based staffing adjustments, which will take place in July. In other words, more people could be at risk of losing their jobs this summer. Taman.
So yeah, I mean, like I said, no big surprises here because Pedro already said this was the next play. Okay. All right. So again, here we are. $529 million budget gap for next year. CPS is eyeing layoffs of 1,600 to 1,700 school-based roles to help close the shortfall. Recent layoff announcements: 161 staff cut and 209 vacancies eliminated, as you saw, contributing toward a projected $734 million deficit. CPS warns certain contract elements may be delayed or deferred to buy time, but CTU threatens legal action. You're not in the position to threaten legal action without releasing those audits, okay? Bottom line, contract costs plus structural deficit equals layoffs. High cost CTU contracts. High cost CTU contract adds new spending while CPS faces pre-existing deficits. 2, limited new revenue from TIF funds, property taxes, and no additional state aid. Recent layoff announcements: 161 staff cut, 209 vacancies eliminated, contributing towards a projected $734 million deficit. 3, CPS is forced to cut jobs and delay contract promises to stabilize finances, because when you don't do the math, you got to do some random stuff at the end to make the numbers look good. Martinez warns this is an engineered crisis to force state and local bailouts. CTU pushes back, threatening lawsuits if deliverables are delayed. Doesn't sound like a bully at all. All right. CPS contract controversy. So we're just going to look at what was already in their contract. Okay. In the area of teacher retention and salaries, CPS reports teacher vacancy of less than 4% due to improved budgets. But the criticism is that, however, the mass layoffs that we just talked about, 161 staff, including 7 CTU roles, signal a possible destabilization. We also have to look at fiscal year 2025 raised salaries 4%, but CTU contract adds major cost burden. Critics say large raises, CTU demands up to $50 billion, strain long-term retention if budget cuts persist. So you're not going to be able to sustain this model. It is giving communism. Nobody's worried about how this is going to play out in the long run for everyone, but you claim and you care about everyone. This is a power and a money grab. LGBTQ plus policies and equity initiatives. CTU demands include annual LGBTQ plus training, gender neutral bathrooms, non-disclosure of transitions. Wirepoint's Illinois Policy Institute claimed that these push an activist agenda, diverting funds from core instruction. You absolutely are diverting funds and resources and time, and their short attention spans and their poor little malleable minds, okay, from what they need to be learning. CPS Strategic Plan 2024-2029 shifts resources via equity lens, removes school rankings. IPI argues this reduces accountability standards and burdens taxpayers. And then the network offices versus school personnel spending. CPS eliminated 67 central and network office roles, kept school assigned staff intact. Critics argue network staff bloat drains funds meant for classroom learning. Civic Federation pointed to staff increases, underutilized buildings, and high debt costs. They recommend trimming central bureaucracy to prioritize staffing and building usage. Nobody wants to make the tough decisions, but it's about the community. you can't worry about the community if you're not willing to take a stand. This is what happens with this over feminization of government as well. Again, back to my point. You know, you kick out the one man who gonna stand his ground on this bull crap. He had a financial background. He's done wonderful things around the country in schooling, and you basically treat him like a cheap prostitute and say, okay, we're done with you. Move out the way. Here come the board that we, handpicked, and they're going to side and argue against you. And we're going to violate your contract to the point that you're going to have to file lawsuits, which I'm sure is costing us as taxpayers as well. So CPS performance, SAT proficiency, 11th grade CPS reading dropped from 25.1% in 2018 to 21% in 2022. Now everybody's going to blame the pandemic, and this needs to shift blame to JB Pritzker, who had us on a lockdown for over 1,100 days. Math dropped from 25.1% to 20.5%, with children being as low risk as they were for COVID. Him having the children, on remote, especially when the teachers were ill prepared for it, ill trained for it. And it's just not conducive to children's learning, in most situations, to be on a remote learning schedule. This was very tyrannical on JB Pritzker's part, especially, like I said, with, COVID, their risk of COVID and fatalities was far less than any other population. Criticism and highlights of the SAT proficiency of 11th grade CPS is, despite a less than 50% increase in per student spending, proficiency declined, suggesting issues with how resources are allocated. Okay. It doesn't make sense. Y'all getting all this money and they not doing better. It should equate to doing better. Otherwise, give me my money back. IAR state testing. And they keep changing the test names. I have no idea what IAR is now. It used to be all types of stuff. Iowa test, the basic skills, all ITBS, all that. Anyway, only less than 31% met reading standards, and less than 19%, or about 19%, met math standards in 2023 to 24. Slight reading gains, but math remains low. Outcomes still lag behind benchmarks. And then NAPLAN NAEP data, 2024 grade, for math in, I don't know, grade 4. Okay, there we go. I'm like, what am I reading? In 2024, it's too many numbers at once. 2024 grade 4 math in Illinois above U.S. average. Okay, so that's good. Reading, but probably not great. Reading drop, still a concern. Some statewide progress, but CPS still below average proficiency. And then the graduation rates, high school graduation rose to about 85% in 2023 from 80% in 2019. So that's a plus. But we got to consider that they were just passing kids because I witnessed with my own eyes. They were not enforcing a lot of the testing and the levels that they should have been, enforcing. They were not holding the line. I mean, if you've been given an abysmal performance and you're going to continue asking for more money, if you lack the oversight to have that accountability for what you're cranking out of your schools, hell yeah, you're just going to graduate a bunch of kids that don't understand what they need to go on to college. And you're seeing that on campuses where these children do not understand the basic skills that they should have been prepared for when they get to freshman level college. 4-year college enrollment, about 43%. Improved outputs, but critics argue grade inflation and no zero grading policies are inflating rates. So there we go, right there. No zero grading policies are inflating the rates. You guys are basically making the kids look good on paper. Get out of here. You're done. 4 years is up. We don't care if you can survive out there. Push you out the nest. All right. And then back to this Title IX bathroom access controversy. CPS ISBE policy as of July 2024 allows students to use bathrooms, locker rooms, and overnight accommodations matching their, quote, gender identity, regardless of biological sex. Okay. Federal complaint, Defense of Freedom Institute and Liberty Justice Center filed with U.S. Department of Education arguing CPS policy violates Title IX by forcing students to share private facilities with minors of opposite sex, limiting sex-based protections in girls' locker rooms. Privacy concerns are that the federal agent noted Title IX ensures minors are, quote, free from compelled exposure of their bodies in front of the opposite sex, end quote, during key moments. Investigations are underway as the OCR is reviewing CPS and ISBE over potential federal funding jeopardy due to policy misalignment. You need money, but you're turning it down because you're going to die on an ideological hill that most parents do not agree with and is not aligned with the welfare of your children. Recent child abuse in Chicago public schools. So you could tell the teachers, you could tell the gym coach, you could tell, each of the staff that they can go to the bathroom of their choosing, whatever they feel like today. You feel like a girl, go in there, sir. You feel like a boy, go in there, ma'am. Right? And the children can be in there and nobody seems to care. 500 plus CPS related sexual abuse cases in 2018. A Chicago Tribune investigation uncovered more than 500 instances of sexual abuse, or the R word, involving CPS employees over a 10-year span. That's too many. One is too many. 500 is definitely too many. Many involve failures by by school officials to report suspicions to police or DCFS. And then you took the cops out of the school, right? Took the police out of the school. You don't want to have these children have their phones in certain circumstances. I don't know how y'all are putting y'all kids in these schools. What is this becoming? It is prison. It is an ideological prison of their minds and their bodies at this point. 470 allegations in fiscal year 2022. CPS Office of the Inspector General, OIG, recorded 470 complaints of sexual misconduct by staff, matching pre-pandemic levels. Alleged behavior ranged from grooming to explicit sexual contact, including cases of JROTC staff having sex with a 16-year-old and an 11th grader exposed by a driver's ed teacher. I didn't know they still had driver's ed. Y'all got time to be doing that when you should be teaching these kids how to drive? It's too much, okay? So specific cases of Illinois and Chicago public schools. Is it a safe haven for groomers? Andrew Castro, a CPS gym teacher. In January 2025, Andrew Castro, a former CPS gym teacher, was sentenced to 17 years after grooming and sexually abusing 3 boys under 13 at Federico Lora Elementary. CPS settled civil claims with the families for $2 million. Was that fiscally sound? Don't do the math. Just follow your choices. Communism or racist, okay? Marine Leadership Academy Abuse Scandal 2021. An investigation revealed that 12 staff members and a volunteer at the Logan Square School engaged in sexual misconduct and grooming. CPS CEO called it a, quote, stunning, colossal failure. Multiple adults were found to have concealed evidence or helped hide abuse. You have a culture of bullies. You have a culture of communists. You have a culture of grooming and indoctrination, right? How does this surprise you? The CEO just told you he had to stand up to he was the CEO and he had to stand up to a bunch of bullies. And you saw Miss Bully herself try to sit here and tell you that you are racist or communist. Don't do math. Christina Formella, Downers Grove South High School. In 2025, Christina Formella, a special education teacher and soccer coach, was charged with 55 counts of aggravated assault, sexual abuse, and grooming. Prosecutors allege she abused one student about 50 times, both at school and at her home, beginning when the student was 14 years old. Trayvon Jackson, elementary teacher, explicit messages in May of 2025. A CPS teacher was charged after allegedly sending sexually explicit messages via Roblox. The teachers are on Roblox abusing your kids. Why am I paying taxes for this? At Aldi Elementary, Stevenson Elementary. Okay. So it's a weird way to end that. Thank you. So I just want to say, before I get up out of here, is that right there just pisses me off, because I need y'all to understand, yes, homeschooling is going to be a challenge, but you owe your children a fight. You owe your children a fight. If you're not going to fight for America, damn, at least fight for your city, at least fight for your state, at least fight for your school district, at least fight for the freedom of their mind, at least fight for their personal bodily autonomy and not being groomed and not being indoctrinated. At least fight for you to put your own spawns forward in the way that you see them and the way that God created them, not to be told that they were born in the wrong bodies and need to make a change behind your back. That they were born in the wrong country and your country needs to die. You want to take that trip, like I said in the last one, you want to take that trip, take a field trip with they ass to LA. Let them get a taste of that. Take a field trip with they ass to UK and let them get a taste of that. Take a field trip with them to Cuba, to Venezuela, to China, and let them get a taste of that if that's what you really want. Because that's the part Stacy Davis Gates ain't telling you. That's the part that CTU and CPS isn't teaching your children. The ugly side of all this community with my money with no math talk. With this bullying culture, don't think, don't question, don't ask. And now you got teachers sending your kids naked pictures on Roblox. That's what y'all voting for? That's what you want your tax dollars to go to? It's sick. Wake up. That's all I'm asking. Just start thinking, is this what I gave birth to my children for? Is this what I give my tax dollars for? Is this what I work every day and they taking this chunk of money out my check for? Is this what I want? Is this a reflection of my values? When I go get on my knees and pray at night, is this what I want to stand up to God and talk about? Because I don't believe this is what y'all want. I'm perturbed. So I am ready to go to hell and back for the children, okay? And I don't see the same fight in a lot of my people, especially. You know, there's been so many of the non-melanated, okay, that pull their children out of school and will homeschool them with the quickness. And again, I know it's easier said than done, but you got to at some point say, I'm willing to make a sacrifice. I'm willing to pool my resources together. They got enough resources online. They got enough worksheets. You got enough people that know how to do a certain thing that you can get together and say, hey, tutor my kid in this and I'll tutor your kid in that. It's going to take a village, but that's what they're counting on. Yes, there's a such thing as community and the good of the community. And the benefit of that is if the community works together. But when the community starts sacrificing their full morality, their ethical beliefs, their moral beliefs, their religion, their patriotism, the substance behind their tax dollars for Stacy Davis Gates, for Brandon Johnson, for J.B. Pritzker, for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, for a bunch of people who hate you. They're going to smile in your face and they're going to tell you one thing, but look at what they are doing to your fiscal policy. Look at what they are doing to the state of the union. Look at what they are doing to your children's future. There will be no home ownership. There will be no 2.5 kids, the house, the car, and the spouse that you could despise if you feel and should so opt to. This is why these boys think they're in the wrong body. This is why these girls think they're in the wrong body. Because these kids are being indoctrinated from every angle. The last place they should be getting it from is the goddamn school. Teach them math. The math can't be indoctrination. Get some damn apples on that paper. Apples are neutral. Put some apples on that paper, add them up. Multiply them apples. Stop putting, the damn LGBTQ flags on there and telling them to do some damn weird math with that. Because y'all ain't even teaching them math. You can't be teaching them math with the damn trans flag. You ain't teaching them no reading, and you definitely ain't teaching them no grammar if you teaching them they, them, was walking to the store. It don't even grammatically connect. You can't take a plural and say they was. They was. Okay. Nobody can talk. Nobody can write cursive. But everybody know he, him, it, they, them. And girls and boys can have periods. This is why Justice Ketanji Brown can get up there and say some old asinine stuff, and the whole damn court is going, girl, what are you talking about? But black girl magic. We relitigating the Civil War. But they don't even understand what the hell was going on with the Civil War. And you ain't gonna mention Republicans. You ain't gonna mention the Tulsa riots and how black economies and everything else had to come up in as a community because people knew math. People knew the law. People knew what they were doing and ran for office themselves and represented themselves in their communities. People weren't afraid to get out there and do the work. No. We supposed to just throw the money to Stacy Davis Gates and let her handle the rest. You can't be lazy when it comes to your children's future. You got to go all in. So with that being said, I be yelling at y'all by the end. But I be mad. Y'all don't understand. This stuff be really making me mad because it was like, what's going on? Are y'all okay? I am very happy that we have a president in the White House who is actually trying to give us a conscience again and give us the light at the end of the tunnel, because Stacy Davis Gates, like I told y'all before, is a living witch. She represents the darkness. Brandon Johnson just following right behind her, okay? Lord of the Rings, okay? I can't let this happen to my city. I can't let this happen to my country. And she's already made it clear her mission is to destroy the nation. Waving a hammer and a sickle. But she don't know about all that. But she was a history teacher, but she don't know about all that. Make it make sense. So with that being said, I thank y'all for tuning in. Please make sure you like and subscribe. Comment below. Let me know if you are a parent, if you were homeschooled, if you agree with, taking down the U.S. flags and not doing the Pledge of Allegiance in school. Some of the indoctrination has been going on. How do you feel about Chicago public schools as compared to other school districts? If you have experience outside of Chicago public school district, your thoughts on, the abuse that's been going on in the schools and where that is coming from, because I would love to get to the bottom of that with y'all. And we might have to do a separate live on that. Let me know if I should make a separate live on anything I talked about here today or a recorded video. But I thank y'all for tuning in. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. And just keep hope alive, y'all, but not in the Jesse Jackson way. Peace.